So this will just be one giant video. I read 2 physical books. The first one is Five Brothers by Penelope Douglas. This was trash. This is about this girl named Chris Jen and the 5 brothers. She does pretty much sleep with all of them until she finds the right brother. My thing is, you can definitely tell what kind of kinks she has because all her main characters are barely 18 or just freshly turned 18. It got really cloudy, so I had to turn the light on, but anyways, I am just so tired of reading stories, especially stories that involved smut, where the female main character is barely legal. I am just so over it. It feels icky to read. Spoiler alert, the brother that she ends up with is 31 and she is 18. So, I am just so tired of 18-year-olds ending up with a guy in his 30s. It just feels icky to me. I'm tired of that trope. I don't want to read about teenagers. I don't want to read about teenagers having sex with grown-ass men. It just feels icky to me, and I don't like it, and it gives me the ick. And I want to read stories about women in their mid-20s and their mid-30s. I do not relate to 18-year-olds. That's also a part of the reason why I don't enjoy YA books in general. It's not my genre, and I especially don't want it in my smut. I'm just over it, and it was good, I guess. I gave it a 3 stars, but I am just over reading about teenagers ending up with men in their 30s. I already said that a million times, but I'm just so over it. Next, I read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This is a sci-fi thriller about this man who lives alternate realities, so gets kidnapped at the beginning of the book, and then he wakes up in an alternate reality, and he's trying to get back to the reality with his wife and his son, and so he travels through different doors in this time box contraption, and he lives out different realities, and he's just trying to find his way back to his family. I really enjoyed this. I think it was a mindfuck. Had a lot of fun. I gave this one a 4 stars. We are moving on to books that I read on my Kindle. I love Kindle. I read all of my books on there because I don't like the clutter that comes with physical books. I just don't collect books that way. But anyways, I read Diavola by Jennifer Thorne. This is a beautiful cover. I love everything about this. Surprised by Chantal Tessier. I am slowly making my way through the Lord series. I love Chantal. She's good at writing smut. It's very heavy on the BDSM and all that stuff. So every time I finish one of these books, I need to take a break from romance of triggering topics like abuse and all that. So every time I read one of her books, I get in a slump. So I just finished Sabotage, which I didn't really like, but I'm slowly making my way through. She just released Madness. These books are very big too. They're always 600 pages long, so hopefully I will be done with the series by the end of this year. I always need like a palate cleanser after reading one of these. I can't read them back to back. It's just too much on my mind. Luring Darkness by Ravenwood. This is another dark bully romance. This was not that serious. I really enjoyed it. It was very Wattpad reminiscent. It reminds me of the stories that I discovered when I was 15 years old on Wattpad for the first time, in AO3 and all that. This gave me those vibes and I really enjoyed it. It's honestly like probably not even that good if you're like analyzing it, but I liked it. Finally read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros because it's finally on Kindle Unlimited. I love this. I think it is worth the hype. It has been years since I felt excited about reading a fantasy book. It has dragons and magical powers, and I fell in love so much. There's a lot of banter between the dragons, and it reminded me of Aragon, and I loved Aragon as a kid, and this is kind of the adult version of it, in my opinion, and it made my heart so happy, and I cannot wait to read the next books. But I think this deserves all the hype that it gets, and I can't believe it took me this long to read it. So, Satan, I am in love with that man. Residence Around the House by Josh Mallerman. I am in love with Josh Mallerman. This book was so creepy. It is about this girl who sees this entity who she calls Other Mommy, and it's told from her point of view. So she's 7 years old, so the writing is very childish, and it just makes it so creepy. I was scared to be in the dark when I was reading this. Like, I was in bed at like 3 in the morning and I was terrified. I kept looking at my closet. I thought I saw figures. So it's one of those books where you just want to reach in and grab the girl and save her, because she interacts with this entity on a daily basis and she doesn't really know the severity of it or what's going on. And I really love this. It was so good. And I love Josh Mallerman. I am falling in love with his stories. I read Bird Box, which I've never seen the movie, so I was pleasantly surprised by how good the story was. He Used to Live Here by Marcus Kluwer. I don't know how to say that. Is another creepy horror story about this couple who lives in the house, and then there's a snowstorm and this family shows up, and they get trapped in this house together. So it's told through like some transcripts and like police reports and news reports, and it's just really creepy. depressing, I'll tell you that. I already forgot the main character's name, but he goes back to his childhood home where his aunt died in the past, and it's kind of a like facing the demons from your past type of book. So he goes to this house and he just keeps finding dead birds everywhere, and people think that the house is haunted, and he's very depressed and suicidal, and it was just, it didn't have a happy ending. Not that horror novels ever do, but this especially was just very bleak and depressing, and I felt bad for the main character. I read a duet by Reese Rivers, so it's Burn Butterfly Burn and Dance Butterfly Dance. It's a spicy why choose romance. This was also very Wattpad reminiscent. Honestly, this was very trash, but it was good kind of trash. I fear I ate it up. It's the girl is like very nerdy and she wears glasses, and it was just easy to visualize myself as her. I think that's why I really enjoyed it, because I've always been like a fucking nerd and I wear glasses and like nobody ever paid attention to me, so I could relate to her in that sense. But yes, very Wattpad AO3, but I recommend it if you want something where you just need to turn your brain off and like not care about plot or character depth. The Shuddering by Anaya Alborn. Is it Ania or Anaya? Anyways, this is a creature feature horror book. So it takes place in Colorado. They're in a cabin. They get stuck in the cabin in a snowstorm, and these creatures come out. I love Anaya Alborn's writing. It's so good. Creeped me out. I would recommend this in like wintertime when it's snowing. Preferably maybe when you're vacationing in a cabin. That's the perfect occasion to read this. More Anaya Alborn. I read Seed. This is a possession story. So the main character, I forgot what his name is. I always forget. I'm one of those types of reader where I will finish a book and just completely forget what I was reading about. But anyways, the main character, his child is possessed by a demon. So they live in Louisiana. It's a southern gothic horror story. I listened to the audiobook for this. It was very good. I highly enjoyed it. I gave this one a 4 star. Keep Your Friends Close by Lucinda Berry. This I also listened to the audiobook and recently found out that I really love Lucinda Berry's books on audio. They're really easy to listen to. The narrators of all the ones that I've listened to have been really great. This is a thriller about this group of moms. One of them gets killed, and so they're trying to find out who did it. It's someone in the group. This was wild. I really like the ending. Lucinda Berry always has very good twists. Secrets of Us. I gave this a 3 stars. I also listened to it on audio. It is about these twin sisters, if I'm remembering correctly. But one of them kills her husband, and so the other sister is trying to figure out what happened. Honestly, I didn't really like this one, so I have absolutely no idea if I just described the plot correctly, but it was okay. I don't not recommend it. It just wasn't for me. Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I also listened to this one on audio. This was my first Riley Sager book, and it was okay. It's basically this guy is trying to find out what happened to his friend years ago when he disappeared. So he goes back to the house, his childhood home. If you don't read thrillers often, then you'll probably really like this. But if you're someone who reads a lot of them, then this will not impress you. Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth. This was also a 3-star read for me. It's about these 3 girls who grow up in a foster home, and their foster mom did a lot of abusive things to them as when they were children. They're all grown up now, and they come back to the town where they were raised because a body was found in the foster home that they grew up in. So it's a whole thing that they have to unravel. This was entertaining. I really liked it, but I gave it a 3 stars. If You Tell a Lie, this is Lucinda Berry's newest book. I didn't like this one. I didn't find it as good as her other novels. The last book is The Favorite Girl by Monica Aria. This was so disturbing. This actually unnerved me. It was diabolical. It's very, she applies to work for this family, and they're very odd. Ends up going there and quickly realizes that she is not going to be just a house cleaner for them. I think this is worth the hype. A lot of discussion around it, and I was in the crowd that really liked it. A lot of people don't, but for me, it was so good. It does have a lot of disturbing topics. Is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be talking about the books that I read in the month of July. I'm looking at my cat. I'm sitting on the ground in the hallway of my bedroom, and she's on the recliner chair. It is Friday night. I am just chilling in the hallway of my bedroom, and we are going to talk about the books that I read. I was on a thriller kick this past month. I had a really good reading month. I only read 1 smutty book, which is surprising for me because I felt for a while that all I was reading was smut. So now I'm reading thrillers and horror books, and it's been really fun. So I have a drink that I'm gonna be sipping on. These are the Jack Daniel's Southern Peach whiskey drinks. I love these. They're so good. I am over 21, by the way. Please drink responsibly. I love these. So if you want to join me, cheers. The Sinner by Chantal Tessier. I'm pretty sure it's Tessier. Anyways, it is the second book in the Lord series, which is basically the Lords are a secret society of psychopathic killers, essentially. And this is the second book in the series. I read The Ritual in June, and it put me into a reading slump. So these are a dark romance, dark revenge romance. It's set in a college setting. I love these books. I think that Chantal Tessier is the queen of dark romance. She just writes pages. I usually don't like it when a book that is 90% smut is over 500 pages long, but something about these books, I just love them so much. The next book is called Phantom Limb by Lucinda Berry. This cover is so cute. I absolutely love the teddy bear. But this book was diabolical. It was so good and messed up. Lucinda Berry is one of my favorite thriller authors. She is a great writer. She used to be a psychologist, and it really shows in her books. She has a lot of knowledge, and she is really good at writing drama in her characters. She portrays different mental illnesses in a very accurate way. Phantom Limb is about this girl named Emily and her sister Elizabeth, and Elizabeth takes care of her sister Emily. Emily is disabled, and they grew up with an abusive mother. One day, Elizabeth wakes up strapped to a bed in a psych ward, and all she remembers is finding her sister Emily's body in the bathroom, and the whole story is basically her trying to figure out what happened to her sister and remembering the events that happened before her death and just trying to piece the puzzle together, and it is just so brilliant. A lot of mentions of self-harm that are so accurate as somebody that has gone through that before. These next stories are Amazon original stories, and these are part of a series called the Obsession series. So it consists of 5 books, and I love to read Amazon short stories because it's a good way to introduce you to new authors. A lot of the books are 70 pages long or less, and it just gives you a feel of the author's writing style, and I love reading them. So this one is called Murder at the Royal Ruby by Nita Prose, and it is about this creepy haunted theater, and people keep dying in the theater, and it's very supernatural focused. I gave this one a 3 stars. I think this was only 40 pages long or something. The Mosquito by P.A. Paris. A guy named Michael is recently divorced, so he goes on vacation to France where mosquitoes just keep leaving bites all over him, and there is this guy named Rupert on the trip who is very creepy and unsettling. People Like Them by Minka Kent. Minka Kent is becoming one of my, not my favorite, but I do like her writing. Everything that I've read by her so far I have liked. This one is a domestic thriller, so it is, think of books like Behind Closed Doors and The Housemaid, Drowning Woman, but it takes place in an HOA community. So this neighborhood, all the houses in this neighborhood have an annual get together where they all go to each other's houses. So it follows different couples, and it takes place in a span of 3 hours. I really like this one. It was very entertaining. The Heart of a Mother by Julie Clark is about this woman named Hillary who gets an email from a DNA website that there was a DNA match found linked to her, and so it makes her set out on this quest person, I found myself, it was one of those books where I found myself rooting for the main character who is not the best person. Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. I think that's how you say her name. I suck at pronouncing names. Anyways, this is about 3 siblings who come together after their mom passes away, and they're going through her belongings and they find a VHS tapes of their mom and their dad and this girl who went missing. In the tape, they're standing over her dead bodies. They're trying to figure out how this girl died. This was entertaining. It was a really good popcorn thriller, and I had a lot of fun reading this. I love her writing. It is so entertaining. Unmissing by Minka Kent is about this woman named Lydia who gets kidnapped for 10 years and she is tortured and manages to escape, and so she shows up at her husband Luca's home 10 years later, and he is married and has a family with this woman named Merritt, and Merritt does not trust Lydia. I Am Watching You by Teresa Driscoll. I did not like this one at all. I gave it a 2 stars. It's about this woman. She's on a train and there's these 2 younger girls on the train who strike up a conversation with these 2 men who are just released from prison, and she wants to intervene and warn these girls to stay away from these 2 random men that are talking to them. But she doesn't. She chooses to not do anything, and the next day when she is watching the news, she sees that one of the girls on the train has gone missing, and she gets a letter years later basically threatening her for not doing anything. I don't know, I didn't like this one. Along the River of Flesh by Christopher Triana. This is the sequel to Gone to See the River Man. If you are a fan of horror, then you probably know Christopher Triana. He's one of the best to do it, in my opinion. These books are very disturbing. A lot of messed up shit happens in these books. So in this one, this series is basically about this serial killer named Edmund Cox, who just kills and tortures women in a very brutal way. The second book follows an FBI agent, a private detective named Gary, and some random girl who are looking for Edmund. I think if you want to get into more extreme horror, then this would probably be a good place to start. It's Summer Rental by Recdog Ross. There's a dog barking, I'm so sorry. This is described as a Scream meets Mean Girls type of thriller, and I have to say that is very accurate. All the characters in this book are so mean. They have no redeemable qualities. They are all insufferable. My neighbors are making noise downstairs. I can hear them bumping stuff around, so I apologize for that. But this book by him, but I believe he writes a lot of sci-fi horror, if I'm correct. The Backbone of the World by Stephen Graham Jones. Stag by Karen Russell. Righteous Man by Tochi Onyebuchi. And Bloody Summer by Carmen Maria Machado. I am not a fan of Carmen Maria Machado's writing. I tried reading her memoir and I DNF'd it. I am just not a fan. I'm not going to talk too much about these because they honestly weren't my favorite, but I will read you the premise of the short stories, which is: Trespass is a collection of wild stories about animal instincts, human folly, and survival from award-winning best-selling authors. Appetite for Innocence, I keep blinding you guys with the ring light, another brilliant book by Lucinda Berry. It follows Ella and Sarah, who are these two girls that are kidnapped by this serial rapist. I don't know if I can say that online, but he grooms teenage girls online, specifically virgins, and he kidnaps them and then proceeds to assault them. And so Ella manages to escape, and their case is being investigated by the FBI, but Sarah refuses to give them any information, and she is protecting their kidnapper. I have to say, this is one of Lucinda Berry's most disturbing, if not the most disturbing book of hers that I've read. A lot of sensitive content in this. It's told from dual POVs from Sarah and Ella, and it is very graphic and descriptive when it talks about the abuse. So, as always with books like these, just proceed with caution. House Guest by Mark Edwards is about this couple who is house sitting for another couple. I forgot their names. When this random woman shows up at the front door who says she is a friend of the homeowners, so they let her in, which then begins a whole downward spiral of events. This is wild, and it did not go anywhere near not what I expected. It went so much further than what I thought this was actually going to be. If there is one book from this entire video that you guys need to read, it is this one, Burner by Robert Ford. I have been recommending this to everybody that asks, what thriller should I read, what horror book should I read. I have been giving them this. This is the most depressing and bleak book that I have read, I think, ever. It's in my top 3, I have to say, and I read a lot of messed up things. I have not been able to get this out of my head since I finished it. It is just such a psychological mind fuck, and I think everybody should read this. It follows 2 point of views. So it follows a woman named Iris and a woman named Audrey, and it is told from both the past and the present. Audrey has the perfect husband. She has a daughter. They're wealthy. They're the perfect couple, but then her husband dies, and she finds his burner phone that contains disturbing content. Her and Iris are both interconnected by her husband, and I need everybody to read this. things horror, and they're honestly all edgelords. They get together and have a competition to see who can find the most disgusting and repulsive things online. One of them gets access to this exclusive club that promises to give them an immersive torture simulation, and they get there and quickly realize that it might not just be a simulation after all. Very graphic and violent. This was trash. That's all I have to say about this. It sucked, and I regret wasting my time on this, if I'm being honest. More Amazon short stories. So The Pram by Joe Hill, Ankle Snatcher by Grady Hendrix, It Waits in the Woods by Josh Mallerman, In Bloom by Paul Tremblay, and Best of Luck by Jason Mott. These are part of, oh, and Big Bad by Chandler Baker. These are part of Amazon short story collection called Creature Feature, which is a collection of devilishly creepy stories that tingle the spine and twist the mind. Personal favorite from this collection was Best of Luck. I also really liked In Bloom, but I did give it 3 stars because I feel like it ended just as it was getting good. Aquatic horror. If you like aquatic horror, then my neighbors just made a noise outside. If you like aquatic horror, then you'll probably like this. Ankle Snatcher is basically a short story of childhood fears revisited. So the monster under your bed type, you know. I Was Right by Dan Schrader is about this guy named Brian who claims to see a figure called the Tree Man, and his parents get killed by this tree man on his 10th birthday, and he ends up in a psych ward for 10 years, and he gets discharged in his early 20s and proceeds to try and figure out what actually happened to his parents. The Gift by Frida McFadden is a short novella about this woman who wants to get her husband a nice Christmas present, so she goes to this creepy old lady's antique store to buy him a present, but she has to give her something in exchange. I gave this one a 3 stars. It was just okay for me. One by One by Frida McFadden. They're on vacation and they're trying to find this hotel, and their car breaks down and they end up hiking and they end up disappearing one by one. This was entertaining and I really enjoyed it. The Bell Chime by Mona Kabani. This was an interesting one. I think I have to reread it because I gave it a 3 stars and I could not tell you what it was about. Honestly, this was one of the first books that I read in July, but it has to do with mental illness, not knowing what's real or not. And finally, The Surrogate Mother by Frida McFadden. I hated this. This is trash. My skin is so oily. Not my cat meowing. Anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for